Welcome to Brother Miller's Notes. This is an introduction to the book of Isaiah. It's more of a big picture type of an introduction. What's going on in the life of Isaiah in the Israel and in Jerusalem? What's the geopolitical situation? It's an introduction to his time. I hope that as I give this introduction, it helps you understand a little bit why the topics come up the way they do, and some of the reasons why Isaiah says some of the things he says. I have found that what Shakespeare is to English, Isaiah is to Scripture. Isaiah today is more relevant, I think, than ever. And there's a lot of ways that we can see how relevant and applicable Isaiah is. Let me just give you a few reasons why that is the case. First, the Savior himself prophesied that the fulfillment of Isaiah's words would come in a day when God had established the covenant with the house of Israel. When that establishment is being fulfilled, the words of Isaiah would be fulfilled. His words, Isaiah, is directed to a 6th century audience that are on the verge of a national crisis. And that kind of is like a lot of places in the world today. They have national crisis and very applicable. Over 55 of the 66 chapters in the book of Isaiah predict the restored gospel in the last days, including the coming forth of the Book of Mormon. It is a topic that Isaiah focuses on. In the Revelations to the prophet Joseph Smith, the Lord continued to apply the words of Isaiah to our day. There are at least 66 quotations or paraphrases of the prophet Isaiah in the Doctrine and Covenants. And I love it when the angel Moroni comes, he quotes Isaiah to Joseph. Oliver Cowdery said that there were 13 passages of Isaiah which the angel Moroni quotes to Joseph Smith and says these are going to be fulfilled in the latter days, and sometimes he says these are going to be fulfilled soon. And I probably didn't put it on here, and I should focus it into somewhere else in these slides, but one of the most applicable ways that Isaiah is applicable to us today and most relevant is his focus on Jesus Christ, to help us better understand Jesus Christ, who he is, and how merciful and wonderful he is. Now, some of the background. Isaiah lives during the reign of 5 kings. He's called to be a prophet, is in the last year of Uzziah's life, 740 BC. And the last 2 years of his life, he is under the reign of King Manasseh, who is really not a good guy. This looks like a map of Jerusalem and surrounding countries at the time. So just orientating, here's Jerusalem, you got the Dead Sea here, and the Palestine states, Edom, Moab, Ammon, and this is the kingdom of Aram, Damascus, sometimes it's called Syria. All of these states that kind of circle around Israel, the northern kingdoms, and Judah, Jerusalem area, sometimes they're wanting to make alliances. They have treaties. There are certain powers because there's one power that dominates all in this time frame. They are the superpower, and that's up here at the top, the northern, the Assyrian Empire or Assyria. They are the kind of the bad, evil empire. They're the Darth Vader, and they've got the Death Star. And these are kind of like a part of the, well, I won't say the plucky little republic, but these always have the Death Star is looming in the background. Because if you look at Assyria and their conquest, before Isaiah is born, maybe it's a darker green, somewhere in that range. But towards the end, they have taken all the way down into Egypt and expanded their borders tremendously. Assyria is not just powerful, there's a lot of beauty with it. If you were to go there, you would look and just say, this is the capital of the world. What they have there in the Palace of the Kings is incredible. The artistry is wonderful. And this is kind of a replica of the Nineveh Gate that you'd go into. It is a place of elegance. But even in the place of elegance where you see a king, this is Ashurbanipal, as he's dining, you start to see something a little bit off in even some of these great paintings that look like, it's kind of picturesque and you're having a great party kind of time. Because in the tree here is a head. That head is an Elamite king that they had conquered, and this Assyrian king decided, I just want to watch this dead head while I'm eating, because I don't know the real reason why, but it just seems that Assyrian kings like it. They have an attitude that they're going to go out and conquer. Assyria is a place that's maybe a little bit like Germany, and they've got a chip on their shoulder. They don't have natural defenses, but they're powerful. Kind of the pre-World War I Germany. They are just, they're forced to be reckoned with. For Assyria, they also think that they have their God on their side, and their God is telling them to go out and conquer people. So you can see in this one, right there at the top, they have their god Ashur, who is flying with the king as he goes out on their side. They will go out and dominate the scene. One Assyrian king, out of the 35 years he rules, he gets his army together and goes out 31 out of the 35. Their main purpose is, in a way, state-sponsored terror. They would go through, make sure everything's fine. They would plunder. They would steal. They'd make treaties that said, okay, you're going to bring me all these things. And they'd make sure that when they came, that they would wreak havoc. And then when they wreak all this havoc, they go back, and in the walls of the palace, they make these type of murals that show, hey, here's a city that we took out, and we're killing some people down here, we're flaying people here, you have no chance of escape because we have our war engines and we are mighty. And if you're cool in your hills and you're in the palace, you're looking around, and here's examples of what they did to other nations, and now they're about to talk to you about a treaty. It kind of is intimidating. So back to Israel. I just want to talk a little about Israel, the king of Israel, Isaiah in his writings, and maybe just a couple little highlight notes. So chapters 2 through 5 are probably written during the time of King Uzzah and Jotham, or Uzziah. Probably in the middle of it, and probably the biggest thing I just say about that time period is there's a rejection of Jehovah. You probably notice that chapter 1 isn't there. I don't know that anybody really is sure where chapter 1, when that one's written. Chapter 1 mentions a kind of a war, verses 1 through 5, and you're going through, and some people go, well, maybe that's in 734, the Syro-Ephraimite War. Or some people say maybe that's the Assyrians when they come and attack. And it may just be that chapter 1 is written towards the end of Isaiah's life as an introduction. And I kind of compare it to section 1 of the Doctrine and Covenants. It's not written first, but it's written later on, and the way I picture it is the Lord just says, all right, like section 1 of Doctrine and Covenants, put it first, here's your introduction. Or maybe it's like the title page of the Book of Mormon. It's written very, very last, and Moroni says, okay, here it is, and this goes right on the front. This is the title page. Any rate, chapter 1's not there. Chapter 7 through 11 seem to be written during the time of King Ahaz. Now, King Ahaz is trying to read what's going on politically, and that's the reason why the background for these chapters is he recognizes you've got the Assyrian king, that he is on his way to have some major wars that are coming. And you're going to see these figures in chapter 7 through 11. King Rezin, Pekah, Ahaz is in Judah, and so about 734 BC, the first of these attacks, wars, starts happening. King Tiglath-Pileser comes down through here and just takes out all along the coast. And then he returns. Next year, so we're now 733, he comes down kind of more of the middle, takes out Megiddo, takes out this top part, Sea of Galilee, and then turns his attention over to the Gilead area. And then the next year, he comes down and takes out Syria, or Damascus, all the way down. Well, King of Judah has become a vassal state of Assyria. It's like, hey, let's make this deal. Isaiah is opposed, and Isaiah lets him know. And so all this is happening as background. And then the other thing that is always in the background with Assyria, when Assyria overtakes somebody, the rule of thirds is just too broad, okay? But I'm going to use it for a minute. Please just bear with me. When they come down through, a lot of times you get about a third of your people who are killed. Now, sometimes it's the whole city. They just take them all out. And sometimes it's no one. So this is not a really great thing to think about, but there's a lot of death that happens when they come through. But there's also a lot of deportations. They look and they see people who are a scholar, who are good, who are craftsmen, and they're like, I like you. And so they just deport them back. And so you have major deportations where with each campaign, you're taking some of this people back as slaves, as booty, as your craftsmen to enrich your society, and then they just disperse them up here. When we talk about the 10 tribes, they are being dispersed in part in this way. And it's multiple campaigns. And sooner or later, you'll get one with Jerusalem, and the diaspora happens with Assyria's conquest and taking them back. Now, King Hezekiah, he decides he doesn't want to be a part of that truce anymore. He's no longer wants to be the vassal state. So he just says, I'm going to stop paying tribute to Assyria. He wants to make reforms in Jerusalem. But then you have the Assyrian king Sennacherib, who is going to come down and advance almost all the way to Jerusalem. And that's part of one of Isaiah's incredible prophecies, is he's going to advance. He'll get to the neck, to knob of Jerusalem. He'll be able to shake his fist there, but Jerusalem will prevail. And so, just so you know, as on the way down, he gets a Jewish stronghold called Lachish. And one of the reliefs on the walls of the palace there is the siege of Lachish. And you can see here it is, the stronghold. Once again, they have their siege engines coming up. You have people being filleted, and you have a dominance of just all of these Assyrian armies. You have some of the people of Judah being carried off captive or leaving. At any rate, Lachish is destroyed in total. Today, I was there a few years ago, it's just a mound. The last king of Isaiah's life is King Manasseh. Isaiah spends the last 2 years of his life in the Bethlehem mountains hiding from King Manasseh. Isaiah's death is reported to have come by his hands. Josephus said, as soon as King Manasseh found Isaiah, he put Isaiah, or had Isaiah be put in the hollow log, and then sawed in half the log. And that ended the life of Isaiah. As you read Isaiah, there's some doctrines that he focuses on. I think I put the most important one last, but here we go. The first one is that Israel is in an apostate condition. You can compare the conditions around Israel to the conditions today. The second one is there is the hand of the Lord is in Isaiah's life and in the people that Isaiah is working with, and you can see it. Third, there is an emphasis and a doctrine on the restoration. The coming forth of the Book of Mormon is a focus of what some of the things that Isaiah prophesies about. He tells about the restoration of the Lord's church in these latter days. And 6, the gathering of latter-day Israel. And I think most importantly, he teaches of Christ and his atonement. Of the 425 separate verses of Isaiah which are quoted in the Book of Mormon, 391 say something about the attributes or the mission of Jesus Christ. When Nephi reads Isaiah's words, he gives an invitation. He says, that I might more fully persuade them to believe in the Lord their Redeemer, I did read unto them that which was written by the prophet Isaiah. For I did liken all scriptures unto us, that it might be for our profit and learning. Hear the words of the prophet, and liken them unto yourselves, that ye may have hope. I think 10 years ago I would have focused on the likening. Today I think I focus on the second part, that you may have hope. Because when you read Isaiah, it gives you hope for today and hope for your tomorrow. Let me just give you an example. So this is 1 Nephi 19, where Isaiah says this, and then the first chapter he quotes is Isaiah 10. And so here's just some examples of the things that can bring you hope from that chapter. He talks about how covenants can strengthen you today. That gives me hope, that God knows you, God knows the future, He knows what's going to happen to you. And when God knows about us and our future, you can have hope that He is helping direct events, things in our lives for our benefit. The promise that God will not cut us off. He's mindful of us. He chooses us, He's chosen us, and He refines us in the furnace of affliction. And we have our afflictions. We have our furnace of afflictions today, but we can know that God is refining and helping us today in those furnaces. Hearkening or listening and obeying to God brings a river of peace. Hearkening God brings waves of righteousness. I love that imagery. Waves just kind of constantly coming in, and you feel that feeling of being closeness with God. Today, we can, I don't know if I wrote that right, feel Babylon, but we can leave Babylon and sing the songs of redeeming joy. And God is able to do miracles in our lives. And after all that, God's done for that. He's done that and can do greater also. Isaiah is a wonderful prophet. And as you study him, I hope that this little overview helps give a little bit of background of what's going on in Isaiah's life. But I think one of the things that I would say the most about Isaiah is he's a sincere disciple of Jesus Christ. He loves the Lord. He wants to be able to follow him, and in his actions, he just does, I think, a lot of what Christ would do and leads us and inspires us to do the same. Hope you have a great day and enjoy your study of Isaiah. Take care. Bye-bye.